Alright, so I'm recording. I don't know how this is going to turn out. Back again with the Xenoblade X Chronicles. But I'm not going to really play it. I'm really just, I'm still trying to figure all this out. Like, I've been forced to use different tools because, we just came from, we just coming out of Bionomics. I mean, are we going to finally admit that, Bob really messed this up as a country, And yeah, yes, I think today or yesterday he pardoned his son. So, we all knew that was going to happen. It's corny because, and I think that background video might be a little too loud. So, let me see if I can turn that down. I'm using a different program, so I'm doing tests and everything. Dang, that took it all the way down, huh? All right. So I'm doing tests and everything to see what best works, how it works out. Like, I'm not even running music right now, so I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna, just record it like it is, and then throw the music in the background as my final mix down on iMovie or whatever software that I choose to use. iMovie is my number one right now. I'm not using StreamYards right now. We'll be back up and on StreamYards soon enough. But I decided to take a little break from that, try other programs, try other options, and see how and educate the kid because computers is part hardware, part software, So I'm still working on the same hardware, but I figured let me try some different software to see if I can make some things using different software. So right now I'm using OBS. We'll figure out a way to, get them a donation or something for letting us use this software. Mr. C told me about it, but I really wasn't, I was just, all right, let's see what I can do to do. As soon as I did StreamYard, I was like, this is simple enough, but this OBS seems kind of dope. I know I can do some amazing things with it, but give me time, just give me some time to figure it out and so that I can get ready for Project 2025, which is right around the corner. Now I thought I already started a game on this, but I guess it got lost in transition somehow. So disable auto parter down for when disabled, your Wii U will remain active for as long as the game. Okay. So we'll leave it enabled. Save these settings. Yeah, save that. Okay. So I don't even think I went through that last time. So I might have. So, and then it's adjust the screen and all this good stuff. But I don't even know if I'm gonna do. I don't even know if I'm gonna go this far into it. I'm just just using it for background and everything. I'm not going to dive deep into the political structure right now, but I am going to reinforce what the game plan was and what the game plan is. Like that's past. Right now is the present. When you're hearing this is even the present, right? And then future. So 10 years from now, if you hear this, you know where it was at. Before other videos that me and my son will put together, and I throw my own videos and just trying to get it done, and have fun doing it. That's what's most important. I really wasn't an AV student. I was a pure mathematics. So pure mathematics is abstract, analytical, and your common understanding of arithmetic. To understand it in I want to say a spiritual sense, but then people get mathematics have nothing to do with spirituality, and that's BS right there, right? In a spiritual sense, yes, mathematics is sacred, secular, and symbolic. So, and that's I'm borrowing that from the construction of how to construct the universe. I'm trying to remember the authors of all these books that I go through and I like. but how to create the universe. I don't have it laying around near me, and it's on my phone, but I don't feel like looking it up right now. And I've shared that book before, and I shared the Temple of Hip, not the Temple of Hip Hop, but the Gospel of Hip Hop by Karis One, and of course, don't Sweat the Technique by Rakim and RZA's the Tower Wu Tang. So those are the three books that I like to use. That the other one's just a fun math book that I use. But tons of books that I use that I want to share the author and where I get certain things from, because I don't want to be plagiarizing, and I don't want to give credit where credit is due. Like they've wrote it, quote unquote, wrote it before me, but who knows what was written at what point in time. The last stream I talked about the French philosopher mathematician Rene D. I must keep working on his last name, Dr. Deb. Dr. Deb is a professor that I had in college, and I mentioned, I think therefore I am, as part of my speech, and I butchered his name during so she took off some points for me butchering his name during the formal presentation. So, but Dr. Deb is one of my all-time favorite teachers, as well as from high school was Paternoster. They were math teachers, and her name slips my head right now. My first math teacher, black woman. What is her name? I'll remember it. It's in. I have my book around here somewhere. So many people we meet over the years, and she was good too, but she gave me a hard time because a lot of teachers, they know the power of their students, and they want to tap into that power, and they trying to figure it out, but you also, we're not just taught in schools, we're also taught at home. Like that's where I'm trying to help people understand, and we're taught in other charter schools, other private schools, other other areas of our life. So even though public school, my son homeschool, and for example, go to church, right? Then that's the third school. Even joining the Cub Scouts is a Christian organization, a Christian movement. So therein, that's what he does with that. Okay, I do have a time here, so I'm 7 minutes in. Okay, cool. I can see my times and everything. All right, and it's only 30 frames per second. And it's dipping. All right, so I see I got more data in front of me, in this device. I don't know exactly where it's recording to, and how I can save the data. I got to do all that kind of research because I'm a iOS guy. I've been an iOS guy for years, and I have to get back into Mac OS and of course Windows. And I always wanted to get into Linux, but other operating services systems and things that I'm sharing with my son. So it's all right. This is the topic. Let's run with it. And then I have a couple other kids that I'm taking notes from and sharing, the history. Like, the one kid, he's real good with one of these new programming languages, but as soon as he, understood, I know the basics, the beginner's all-purpose symbolic instruction code. Like I self-taught that to myself way back in the 80s. On my Commodore 128, he knows he's dealing with an old relic, but that's wisdom. Knowledge is dope, but when you got that wisdom, and it becomes a godlike experience. When you're sharing information, the thing with knowledge is kind of is just the intelligent part. Wisdom is the movement part, and that's where we get kind of confused. I guess my opinion, whatever, but I do see wisdom having more is where the emotions come from. It's having the knowledge of such emotion that really takes us to new levels, if that can be comprehended. But I'm getting a little too sacred or philosophical, um, and I'm not really dealing with the psychology yet. So back to my epistemology, right? And how that relates to the metaphysics. Shout out again to Karis One, who first introduced us as a culture to a different way of thinking philosophically. Um, and in doing so, you can analyze psychology in a different way. So as I go back in time, and where I'm going to share later on today, I'll make another video seeing how this one turns out. And then my next video, I'm gonna dive back into what is independence. Because I'm going back to we just had Thanksgiving, but every year July 4th is the Declaration of Independence, and I'm noticing how the leftists is how treating black people like don't worry about that, don't worry about that. We want you to worry about Juneteenth, and it's like, well, we were involved in the Declaration of Independence too, even though we might have been one or two uh, quote unquote African Americans in the legislation. We don't know how many, because of skin tone being a favoritism kind of a thing when you're dealing with colorism. Even back then, if we're dealing with colorism now, we were dealing with colorism way back then, where if you were real light skinned, but you still, you might have been half black, or half African or whatever, and it's just hard to tell. And therein is the gotcha moment in trying to understand what's really going on in our society today. So, but we'll talk more and more about that as we proceed too. But I mentioned the Declaration of Independence because of three key words that it has in the first paragraph. One people, it says it in the first paragraph, and then the other things that it says is the laws of nature and nature's God. So therein is the unity of the atheist and the theist. And what we seeing is when you corrupt either or with power, you create the anti-theist, or in a biblical sense would be the antichrist. And that's I don't believe that's Donald Trump. I think Barack has more tendencies of that, because we as hip hop gave him so much power, and hence giving him the power, Jay-Z, P Diddy, and how they abused power and shared it with him, making him the first quote unquote African American biracial president, right? It got lost in the sauce, and that's why we see what happened this past election, where he abused the power and ignored black men, and called us all misogynist and et cetera, and now we all as a people are facing the consequences of that. So we're repenting, atoning, and thanking the eternal. Now, is that acronym hate? Yeah, I'm being a little facetious, but the hate is real. I mean, it's real, and I'm no longer putting any of y'all higher, right? I'm just showing y'all respect, especially if you're, in my top five, which would be Rakim, through Karis One, but including Big Daddy Kane, EPMD, Dougie Fresh, and Slick Rick. I've been explaining how I like to use mine as groups, and I've decided since then, because I kind of skipped over Def Jam, and Run DMC and Sugar Hill Gang, and so they're considered the zero group. So the zero group is LL Cool J, and this is his list. LL Cool J number 1, Beastie Boys number 2, Public Enemy number 3, and then Slick Rick number 4, which coincides with me putting Slick Rick number 4 because they were all, that's his top 4 Def Jam groups or whatever. So 5 can be, the Roots with Black Thought, or anybody who else is. The Roots I think is Def Jam, right? whoever else was Def Jam. Even Jay-Z is Def Jam. So, but I don't really put them in that top, you know, zero spot. They have their own section, and we'll put them in 6 through 9 or 10, should I say, in the coming years. I'm not rushing this at all. I'm staying focused on the top five. I might do this for a decade, the first five, and then another decade. All God willing, of course, if I live that long, right? And then my next five will be, you know, and then that's when I'll really dive into Wu Tang. And then if I live for 30 years, and then I can start talking about Little Brother. Shout out to Little Brother. That might be, they might be my secret all time favorite group next to Killer Priest. You know, he's another one that's like, is he Wu Tang? Yeah, he's Wu Tang, but we don't. You know what I mean? Y'all still ain't going. I might not talk about Killer Priest like, you know, extensively for 40 years from now or something like that. You know, 40 years from now, then once y'all start understanding it, then I can, all right, let me talk a little bit about my man here, Killer Priest, and hopefully we both be around and can have a drink together and laugh at it on how the culture is evolving still. So, you know, I said all that, right? And I only did 16 minutes. And that's enough. That's enough. I'm gonna end it right there, and I'm gonna see if I can upload it, mix it, and I ain't gonna do much mixing to it. Um, Add some kind of, you know, different graphic to it or whatever. We'll figure it out. And say one. God, that is hip hop, right? Well, that's we moved on from there. So it's one God, our Father, art of time, hip hop life, love one.